What I want to look at this morning is 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Peyton read from chapter 4. We'll look at both. So if you want to get your Bible and go to 2 Corinthians chapter 3, we'll be by there in a minute. Veils. What do you think about when you think about a veil? Not the veil of the temple, like it was a curtain, but veils. Well, you might think of this. You might think of the traditional wedding veil that some brides wear. I don't even know the origin of that. It may be from Jewish custom. I really don't know the origin of it, but we're somewhat familiar with that. Islamic women wear something referred to as a veil that covers their face. Not exactly the same thing, but they refer to their face as being veiled. And then you may or may not be familiar with the traditional mourning veil. This is something that is done occasionally. It's been done a lot in the past. Not as much anymore, but women will wear a black veil in mourning of loss to symbolize mourning. And what a veil does is it kind of disguises the face a little bit. And we read about it in the Bible. I believe Rebecca, she veiled herself as Isaac come riding up. It talks about her veiling herself. If you read the Song of Solomon, you'll see veil is talked about quite a bit. Now, the Song of Solomon, if it was to come out today, it would come with a warning label. The Song of Solomon would be one of them books, if it was on the shelf today, it would be in the PG-13 section, probably. It's a graphic love story, okay? And your kids are thinking, I ain't been reading the Bible. But that's what it is. But he talks about his lover a lot being behind a veil. And in one place he says, how beautiful your eyes behind your veil. They are doves. Well, the second thing I think is their pickup lines were a lot different back then than they are today. This line sounds like some lines I actually heard Zach use while we were at Russellville. But I mean, I think doves, beady-eyed little girl, I don't know. And then the second is even worse. Your hair is like a flock of goats descending from the hills of Gilead. I don't recommend trying that line, Drake, at all. The flock of goats line. But the Song of Solomon does refer to the veil quite a bit. Now, the background I want to give you for this morning's message is from Exodus 34. When Moses would go up on the mountain and he would talk to God, he would be exposed to the glory of God. His face would shine, glow, when he'd come back down the mountain. And he would have to veil his face because the children of Israel couldn't stand to look at him. It was so bright. And so it was kind of like, you've seen these watches. It's got the hands on them that light up when you expose them to light. And then when you turn the light out, they glow. And they gradually fade out. That's kind of the way the Bible talks about Moses. When he would be in the glory of God, he would come back down and his face would be radiant glow to the point where they couldn't even look at him. And so he would veil his face. But that would be fading away. It would gradually fade away until he'd go back in the presence and the glory of God the second time. And you can read that in Exodus 34, where it refers to Moses put the veil over his face until he went to speak with the Lord. So that is the background. That's the context I want you to see for this. 2 Corinthians 3, 7 through 18. Because Paul is going to refer to this. And you need to know what he's talking about here to get the background. Starting in verse 7 of 2 Corinthians chapter 3. Paul says, now if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in letters on stone, came with glory, so that the Israelites could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of its glory, fading though it was, will not the ministry of the Spirit be even more glorious? If the ministry that condemns men is glorious, how much more glorious is the ministry that brings righteousness? For what was glorious has no